Steve. And we are live. Wow, it's like I didn't knock out the audio this time. That was weird.
Yo, I had to practice some serious restraint.
Were you trying to go full?
Man, I got some octaves. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Who do you think is the first one here today?
Let's go
you'll
with,
never guess it, so
yeah, if I'm never gonna guess it, then hold on. Turn that down. Okay. Let me do. Who is it? Who is the first person?
It's Michael Key Jr.
Michael Key. What up, though?
Yo, what's good? All right, so we're gonna let everybody get into class and everything else, before the tardy bell rings.
Right.
Today's gonna be a dope lesson, a part 2 of 3. Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Now, it's interesting because we talked about diffusion of innovation yesterday, but that's a whole nother other. So we'll get back to that. Wait, what did I say?
You said yesterday.
Oh wow, Tuesday kind of felt like yesterday. I mean,
all these days are the same to me because my portfolio is looking green every day. So
I'm gonna have to do this I ain't got no water.
Dang. I just asked you if you had water.
Hey, man, I was locked in.
Yeah, I feel it.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm here for it. Whew. All right. So welcome, everybody. I'm Mark Monroe, and I am accompanied by my wonderful host, co-creator, co-producer, and awesome friend, Jolene GC.
In the place to be.
Okay. Yo, I'm loving that tag, though, by the way. Are we going to tell people what the tag that you have on your necklace says?
Oh, you guys, this necklace, it says Lady of Leisure. You can't tell, but it says Lady of Leisure.
Okay. All gold, everything I see. Oh, and then she's flying with the water. Okay, I see how this goes. Serious shade. So this is how we're going to start off today.
We already starting up.
We are already here.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome, everybody, to Hot Take Thursday. We're going to do it a little bit different because we are just kind of changing the game as we see fit. And of course, the way that we change this game is making sure that essentially that we give it to you for free. So, I mean, we're in the second day of class for the semester. What are we going to call it?
Let's go with semester because that sounds, academic.
Shout out to all the HBCUs out there. Yes, we do a semester style. It's very weird when you find schools on trimester, though. That's just different. Yeah. All right. So if you haven't subscribed yet, we don't know what you're doing. Do you want to be a part of this cookout, this family, this class, this course? I mean, honestly, we'd love to have you by. You could sit in the front or the back or, even, be one of those auditors that sits on the side. So if you're still auditing this course, that's fine. Welcome, Jumbo. And then on top of that, if you've been here for a while, go ahead and hit that like button so that way we can get it out to more cousins that definitely need to be in this class because this class is lit. And then on top of that, if you want to be in the know, so that way you're not coming in tardy and everything else, go ahead and hit that bell. It's AKA the Cool Kids Club. So we'd love to have you a part. All right. So Jolene, before I get going, before this class gets started, and we may have some latecomers coming into class today. So with that being said.
Yes, you know what? If you're new, I want you to say that you're new, and then the OG Cuzzles, please welcome new Cuzzles to the family. Okay. So first of all, we hit some records in these markets. We got to talk about these levels. So the Dow.
Somebody get me some.
You know what, Mark? I am so rusty.
Oh, Steve, can you give me a bottle of water? I feel like it's about to be one of them days. Go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
A lot of water slippage. Let me just run this all back because I'm forgetting where I am, forgetting what I'm supposed to be saying.
It's just the location. It's the location. It's the vibe.
I'm missing my money gun and my Black girl art world sign. So I'm just kind of equilibrium is off. But anyway, let me start all over. What's up, everyone? This is Jolene GC in the place to be. And today is Hot Take Thursday. This is January 7th. We are already 7 days into 2021. Today's episode is called It's All About Purpose, and you will see why. The market today was green. Gangs on gangs on gangs on gangs. Okay.
You know what? I can't even wear this hat right now to the front because based upon what I saw on CNN yesterday. So just for for some of the tomfoolery that I saw yesterday. I saw a fellow Patriots fan just acting on some foolishness at the Capitol. So,
oh yes,
it's definitely going to face the backside. So go ahead.
All right. So the Dow was up 211.73 points. S&P 500 was up 55.65 points, and the NASDAQ was up 326.69 points, y'all. The NASDAQ was breaking records. Okay, we got new levels like left and right. And finally, let's talk about the sector performance. As you all know, there are 11 sectors. We track the top 3 and we track the bottom 3. And I don't know when's the last time I saw tech in the #1 position, but y'all, today, tech was #1 for performance. So if you have those XLKs, I am sure that your account was up. Tell Steve to calm down. Okay, and then we got discretionary coming in hot at #2. So I know y'all's XLYs were up. XLY hit a 52-week high as well. Energy up. Those are the top 3. Now for the bottom 3, we have real estate, consumer staples, and utilities. Consumer staples and utilities were the only 2 out of the 11 that were in the negative today. So we are seeing some sector rotation. Remember how tech was at the bottom, then it was in the middle, and it kept going back and forth, and money was flowing to other places and spaces, and now the money is back in tech. So if you had the XLK and y'all were holding on, XLK was there for you today, or most of the tech was there for you today. Now for our pick performance, if you go to our Instagram page at That Come Up Series, you will find our 31 sips. Y'all, I'm sure you were drinking plenty of water today because the Come Up pick list was on fire. Okay, so the top 3 out of that 31 are Roku. Let me just take a breath before I say this next one. Tesla. Okay.
Hold up. We got to stop at #2 real quick because what is going on with you and Tesla right now?
Yo, Tesla right now has a new name. Y'all know last season Tesla was known as Stock Crush, and you know why it was Stock Crush, because I was plotting on it because it was expensive at the time. Then, we had a little talk, we had a little chat, we started talking, we started texting, and then boom, next thing I know, Tesla is all over the portfolio. So now the new name, because Tesla was also my very first scale play. I'm talking about when I'm super risk adventurous. So I was just like, put it all in Tesla. And so Tesla was my scale play. So now Tesla is known as Scale Bay. Okay. Tesla.
Are we not going to talk about the other experience that you had with Tesla? You've had 2 different types. Yes. Okay. We're going to talk about 2 experiences, but first, let's get the third one out of the way. Let's get the third company out of the way.
So the third one, because they're all, related. ARKK, y'all. If you have ARK in your portfolio, if you have that ARK in your portfolio, you were sipping today. Let me just hold up.
I'm drowning.
Sipping today because all top holdings were doing something to contribute. Because my ARK, I don't know about you, Mark, but my ARK was outperforming my Tesla, and my Tesla was really doing it. But ARK, I was like, good Lord.
ARK told Tesla, look here, you cute and all, but they know who I am is.
Yo, ARK was doing it. So I was really pleased. I definitely was pleased today. I got a lot of messages from the cousins. They were excited, but I need to tell you about this wild ride yesterday, y'all. Okay, so as you know, we're gonna talk about it. So y'all know my put game is not that strong. Okay, it just isn't. Shorting is counterintuitive to me. So yesterday we had a little fun. We had a little fun. So I shorted Tesla yesterday, you guys. I shorted it, okay? And it was a wild ride. That ride lasted for all of 1 hour. And it went up to, I don't remember what the highest it went up to, but my put was for
went all the way to 649.
Okay, so my put was for what was it for? 650? No,
we were at 670. We were at 6 or 7, 750, and we were at 70, I think, at the time.
Yes. Yo, that was a wild ride because also I had a stop limit order. And so I'm trying to get out of my, I'm trying to sell. I'm trying to sell at this point because it was starting to go up. Do you know, I kept getting a message from E-Trade like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And so then I looked and saw that I had that order. I had to close that order out. That hesitation alone, that cost me some serious money. Now, the point is that I got out on time. And thank goodness I got out because today, Tesla, even in the aftermarket, is up to $830.68. I got out just in time. I do not recommend that, but I've been leading this leisurely life, and I needed some excitement. So
well, she truly got some excitement, y'all. Like, yo, that was like an hour of like a straight up roller coaster.
It was, because it was going up, it was going down, it was consolidating, it was doing all kinds of stuff, but it was fun. And what I learned from that, one, I learned that before, when I used to say that puts were counterintuitive, I had to pause and tell myself, there is nothing counterintuitive about making money. There just isn't. So we making money on the way up, we making money on the way down, and don't even get me started on what Tesla did today for your girl's account. Okay, so it was amazing. It was a fun ride.
You want to be a day trader now?
No, absolutely not.
You don't want that.
No, I don't. I'm not, you know what? Being a day trader is not, it's off brand for me. I'm the lady of leisure. I need to enter things leisurely, on my time, well rested and relaxed. Okay. All that stress is not for me.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want to day trade, but I understand the thrill of it. I definitely understand that, but also the risk. Imagine if I stepped away from my devices for even 2 seconds. I would have lost so much money.
Yeah, because you wanted a lot of excitement, but we're not.
I only had 5 contracts on that Tesla.
Put.
Yeah, on the Tesla.
And luckily, it was around the same time that margin calls were being had.
Yes, there was a lot of factors. I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that again. But I'm glad that I have the experience, and I can now, when I'm telling people don't do it, like I really can be like, for real, don't do it. Just don't. Just don't do it. It's not worth it.
Then honestly, just don't do it.
It's not worth it. But it was a good time. So I also want to talk about, what did you say?
Who are the bottom feeders for the day?
Disney, Booking, and X for still. But there was still some, we had a lot of 52-week highs. We had, let me see, Roku, Lam Research, TSM, aka Taiwan Semiconductor, ARC, K, SMH. This is why SMH will always be stock bay. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care how good Tesla does. Like, Tesla is scale bay. Okay, like we got different names, different categories. Tesla, XLI, TAN, the solar ETF, and X.
Not bad. SMH also, was showing out a little bit too, but
Oh, SMH definitely was showing out, but I need SMH. I already missed my entry for SMH. We were talking about getting back together, but I was still messing around with Tesla. So,
All right.
That is my update.
that was that, focus portfolios. Thank you, Zane. Focus portfolios are always popping, like for sure.
Yes, no raggedy portfolios. If I see one more screenshot of a raggedy portfolio, it's 2021, y'all. If you have to scroll down to see all of your holdings, you're doing this wrong. You just are. Like, consolidate, maximize, stop playing games.
Whew. All right, so you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it.
Class. We are so late for class. I can see it right now. If you and I were in class together, or if we were in the same school, like we'd be late.
No, I was a nerd, y'all. I was at the front of the class. Okay.
The front. All right. All right, let's do it. Loading up. Y'all ready?
Right. Yep.
Welcome, y'all. Today at the wonderful Come Up School, we are talking about its purpose. It's all about purpose today. Hey, Auntie. All right, so let's get into it, because I mean, really, when you think about purpose, right? Like purpose, like drives everything. Yeah, we'll get into it. So, like for example, let's get into the main purpose. Why are you an investor? When we really think about it, it's like, every day that we walk out, every day that we wake up and that we're alive, and every decision in which that we make is an investment. One of the greatest things that my grandfather always taught me is that, Mark, every decision that you make in moving forward, every choice, whether it's friends, business, relationships, whatever, it's an investment, because of the fact that you're taking one of the elements, time, value, cost, worth, and you're ultimately, there's some type of sacrifice or some type of transaction that's taking place. Now, it's up to you whether or not essentially that you want to make that transaction or not, whether or not the risk is too high or it's too low, or if the reward is good or if the reward is not there and there's more consequences that lie up ahead. But every decision that we make is an investment. So the question is like more so in the sense, why are you an investor? One of the things that I always sit back and I ask myself, why am I an investor or quote unquote trader? And I always believe this: if I don't invest, then certain things in life will either, one, never happen, and if they do happen, even though I didn't invest, they won't be as radical. I highly believe that. One of the things that I bring forth is radical ideas, like things in which that are radical in order to be able to be pushed into this world, and to be executed. So it's like, it's an essential question that I always ask myself, but it's like, it's always interesting because when you think about the meaning behind it, it's way bigger. So ask yourself, why are you an investor? But, another thing that we must realize is that when we think about why are we an investor, we think about this in the sense of, a lot of times we either think about it either in the form of knowledge or based upon in our age when we talk about it. Sometimes when I'm sitting in rooms with folks or when I'm talking to people in which that are older or younger, and many times I get this within communities in which that are older than me, and they're like, wow, if only I knew this. And it's like, I feel like you're way smarter than me. And I'm like, no, knowledge itself always will transcend age. Knowledge doesn't care exactly how young you are, how old you are, or where you are in the spectrum in between, or even beyond that, or even younger than that. It doesn't care. It's just there. Knowledge is going to be there, and it's just a matter of, do you acquire it or do you not? It doesn't care about how old you are. It doesn't care about what you look like, any of that stuff. It's just a matter of essentially, are you going to gain it? And then on top of that, also, are you going to use it? Like what we always say, the information is all out there, readily and available for folks to have access to. It's just a matter of who knows how to analyze it better. So this purpose thing, most people start off with, and some folks, when we think about it, like if you were to take any company, the first thing that we always start off with is, what does this company do? How do they do it? And why do they do it? And then many of you, we always, like when we're talking to people, we always talk about, well, when we're first getting to know a person, it's like, well, what do you do? Okay, how do you do it? And then we always get to the very, very end, we're always asking the why. Like that's normally how most people start it when we think about it. Okay, somebody apparently has showed up to my house. So when we as we move forward, I want you to think about it like this. Like, can you see it? Like, really? Like, like we're very purposeful, and now shout outs to Simon, because he did this dope thing on TED. He had this TED talk in which that it was really called the Golden Circle. But of course, it was more so geared towards like just how is it that we get to know companies, but more so in the sense that, here at the Come Up series, it's very easy to talk about getting to know a company. but it's more so in the sense of getting to know yourself, the investor, which is even greater. We're about to hear the door slam. Thanks to Butter. Barging through it. Butter, lay down. You're done. So we look at it from a totally different landscape, which is why, how, what. So let's break it down. When we think about like the what, this represents the products or services a company sells. Butter, go drink some water. Go on. You good? Okay, I hope my dog isn't choking or anything like that. Sorry. Okay. All right. So then we think about the how. This really explains, like, why their products and services are better and how is it that they stand out. And then we get to that why part, which is essential because it really talks about like what is it that they believe in. Now, the interesting thing about any of these presentations, Butter, go drink your water. Go on. Go on. You okay? Okay. Well, he just doesn't want to leave. And then I have my mentee running into walls. Okay. So when we think about the why, it really like describes like truly the purpose of everything. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. I may have to get Butter, like, some water or something, because he's like literally tripping. All right. So, but first off, this lesson is paid for by whomever else? The ancestors. So don't worry. No payments necessary. It's already been paid for. All right, so when we think about it, like, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Like, think about it. Like, let's look at it from the standpoint of Apple, for example, right? And let's come back to this. If we look at it from the what, we know that Apple sells what? iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, the whole nine.
All that.
How do they do it? It explains why their products are better. So why are Apple's products better? Well, because of the fact that they use the best of the best when it comes to materials. They put a lot of energy when it comes to, say, for example, making sure that it's the best designed product. But what is it that Apple believes as it pertains to a company? It's very easy for us to like easily look at, like, say, for example, the fundamentals, the financials, and all that other stuff. But it's like, if you understand the why, then a lot of this other stuff makes it super duper easier to fall into place. Like, for example, when we look at the why, this is where the company, like, where it shows what the company believes in. Not about making profit. Therefore, inspired and influential companies communicate from the inside out rather than inside in. So what does that look like from, say, for example, Apple's perspective? Here's a why. We believe in a world where things are designed beautifully and that provides you the best of experiences without technology getting always in the way. It's like, just imagine that. So then imagine, like, they tell you this is what we believe. Then from there, how do we do it? We design great products in which that honestly, that you never thought that you could live without. And then what? They just happen to be iPhones, iPads, MacBooks. It just flows better, right? Like, when we think about it from a marketing standpoint, but then also from a branding standpoint, when we think about it, it's just like, it works. It works. Oh, he's just pacing outside. Okay, well, there it is. So let's come back to it as it pertains to, this perspective. Because we're going to do some simple examples today. Let's look at the companies on the come-ups pick list, shall we? Mm-hmm. When we look at, say, for example, the Teslas of the world, right? Do you really think that the folks who buy Teslas only buy Tesla because of the fact that it's an electric vehicle? No. Do you think that people go work at Tesla because of the fact that, you know, they make electric vehicles?
Not even.
No. They buy Teslas because of the fact that they believe in the company and what it stands for. You see people buying the company as it pertains to the stock, especially those early adopters. Remember this whole thing when we were talking about diffusion of innovation, where we talk about those innovators and then early adopters? You know, the early adopters are the folks in whom which that really, really believe in something. They've already bought into the why. Notice the folks in whom which are the early majority, they're more so focused on the how part. The folks in whom which that are the late majority and the laggards, they're more so focused on the what. They're focused on the what. But here's the funny thing. They tend to follow, like, so for example, the people who focus on the what, they learn from the folks in whom which that understand the how. And then the folks in whom which that are the how folks, then they're learning from the folks in whom which that are the why, that have set the stage for them. It's really because of the folks in whom which that really get the why, like the belief and the understanding and the purpose of the company and what is it that they do, like understanding why is it that they're doing what they're doing. It's like, if you really think about it, they become some of the greatest marketers. Like if you go and look at Tesla's advertisement budget, right? You will see that this company spends no money on advertisement. Not a single dime on advertisement, no ads. But yet they were the best company of 2020. They're also the top company, just recently eclipsing SpaceX, which happens to be number 2. They're the number 1 company that is recruiting, where people want to go and work for. That is because of the fact that they have completely bought in to the belief, the purpose of a company. So, okay, so Simon does this great, Simon, and like I said, I'm giving credit to where credit is due. I'm not like one of those type of people that if I learn something from somebody, then ultimately it's like I'm just gonna like take it as my own, because that's never how I operate. So I'm gonna give Simon his credit because he did a wonderful TED Talk and I posted it in the Come Up Cousins page. So I'm definitely gonna give that to each and every single one of you. So let's think about it for a perspective. He tells this great story about like how like there was 2 different sides of it, where we had the Wright brothers and then we had a person by the name of Langley. Now here's the interesting part where it's like they're completely separated. When you look at the why, you take the money out of you. There's no money motivation behind it. When like the real successful companies, they're really not thinking about the money. It's never about the money for them. When you think about, say, for example, the companies that become very unsuccessful, or the people who become very unsuccessful, and I guess I'm gonna take this off of the screen. I can always come back to it, but I'm gonna stop sharing so that way everybody can look at me directly. So when you think about like, you know, the entrepreneurs out there or the companies out there that are really very much so mission focused behind a purpose, then their companies go on and become very, very successful. When you think about people in whom which that are focused more so about money, revenue, and just being, you know, hey, that I just want to make the most amount as an entrepreneur or even as a company, they're highly unsuccessful. There's no real significant purpose behind it because the purpose is just too small. When we think about purpose, it's always a belief that's always bigger than yourself. You know, whether you're a company, whether you're an entrepreneur, or even if you're an investor. See what we did there? All right, so let's look at it from a perspective. On one side, you have the Wright brothers. And on the other side, you had a story of a person named Langley. Now, when we hear about the story of flight, we already know how this story ends, but there was once upon a time a person by the name of Langley. I forget his name, but Langley. And he literally had, and let's backtrack. You know, when we think about like, especially as a investor, we always hear about like, why is it that certain companies like don't work out, right? We hear about why they fail. We hear about, you know, what were some of the factors, and, you know, how is it that, like, you know, for example, it could be like the execution was off, or that the market wasn't ready to essentially accept whatever the product or service is, or essentially you didn't have the capital in order to execute it, right? I mean, we hear about this all the time. And typically it's like, it's one of those types of excuses that we hear from startups, whether or not it's a valid excuse or not. That's not my judgment. It's not my point here. So what happens when you have, say, for example, a person like Langley, who literally says that, okay, hey, my purpose is to literally like create flight, like, you know, be the first to essentially have, you know, human flight. Now, here's the interesting thing. The market was ready because of the fact that people were really, really excited. So excited that essentially back in those days, they gave him $50,000 in the way that the story that Simon told it, that they gave him $50,000 to literally, you know, fund this entire project. He had some of the greatest talent that surrounded him. And at the same token, it's like the newspapers kept following this man every day. Every day. So like literally, like if you ask any black tech startup out there, yo, that is a serious come up to be funded, to have the market like literally just nipping and clawing at your heels saying, okay, hey, we want this service and everything else. They're ready for it. And then on top of that, you're getting press. Oh my God. All right. So he had all of this. And then a little ways away in Ohio, there were these two brothers who nobody knew about, didn't have all the funding in the world. I mean, the funding that they got was because they owned a bicycle store together, and they used the profits from that to literally like become innovators. And the other part is that essentially, so they didn't have like the market and everybody else saying that they could do it. So there was nobody that even knew who they were. And so the interesting thing is, as the story plays out, there was this gentleman, Langley, that once, like, as things started to move forward, it just wasn't happening. And for the Wright brothers, they took flight. Now, here's the interesting thing about how this story goes. The day that they took flight, the very next day, Langley quit. Like, he could have easily said, you know, hey, let me go meet these guys. Let's see if we can come together and literally, like, you know, bring forth more resources so that way we can, I have got the resources, you guys have got the talent and everything else. And boom, he didn't do that. He completely quit, just disappeared. And hence the reason why when we think about, like, the history of flight, we think about the Wright brothers. We don't think about Langley. And it's so interesting that as we move forward, it's like, look at the purpose. Like, you can easily get to the what, the how, and all those other things, and that's great. But it's really the why part that literally, like, their purpose, like the Wright brothers, their purpose and passion was just so that way we believe that men or humankind could take flight. Now, of course, did the plane stay up in the air very long? No. But did it fly over a certain length? Yes. Now, the other person, his whole focus was just money. Okay, so I know that some of you guys are saying, well, Mark, you know, that's just one particular example. Bring it into the modern day age. I'm glad you asked. We look at the mission as it pertains to the belief of Tesla. What Elon Musk believes that everybody, every investor, every consumer, the reason why, hell, even I bought my Tesla, the reason why folks get around it, the reason why they want to go solar and everything else, and look at him as the pioneer, like looking at him as the second coming to Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos all tied in one. I mean, think about it. Like, that's a cult following. People have a cult following because of the fact that they believe, like, in the mission and purpose of what this company is focused on. Not about money. Let me go back a little bit further to kind of give you an idea about, like, say, for example, when we look at companies. Think about it like this. Why was the company Apple started? If you ever get the chance, go and check out Steve Jobs. He gave a speech, I think at Stanford. And for those of you who don't know, Steve Jobs is a college dropout. It's funny how most of your successful billionaires and folks who created like great innovations, they dropped out. But he talked about in the sense of the reason why he created something was because he believed that things should be beautiful digitally. He wanted to see beautiful fonts on a screen. Now, of course, he got fired from his own company and everything else, and then came back and just, like, you know, boom, there it is. But the point is that there was a belief there. And ultimately, Apple had this cult following, and then it led on to the many years later, down the road, its success. Now, let's fast forward to, say, for example, in Elon. Same rules apply. When we look at, say, for example, the Amazons of the world, same rules apply. Now, let's look at companies in which that have different reasons why. Now, it's very easy because I know that everybody's going to go with the easy one, which is Nikola, right? But we're going to put a pin in that Nikola thing. And, you know, honestly, I think we can kind of officially say that that's over. But it's very, very interesting. The same company that Nikola is, it was also invested into by a company that honestly didn't really have a strong purpose back in the day. There is a company that was willing to invest 11% stake into Nikola earlier, and we're late last year or middle of last year, that was willing to make an investment in Nikola and was willing to just like, you know, hey, we're going to invest in this company because we believe in their vision. Now, it's kind of interesting because we can't really give Tesla the crown as it pertains to the first ever electric vehicle. Technically, the first ever electric vehicles were created by one company by the name of GM. And GM created a car called the EV1. And it was a very dope car. It was like in the beginning of its time, in 1996 to 19, the car went from a time period from 1996 to 1999. Now, did GM create another electric car way before then? I'm probably sure, but this is the one that sticks out in this timeline because it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. And by the way, if you work at GM, I'm so sorry. I'm just stating the facts, so no shade. You know, it's just the truth. Now, when we look at it, when we look at GM back in the time frame, well, let's look at it like this. They had the EV1. They had a very strong cult following of people in which that believed in the product, that believed in the company, and everything else. Now, we ask ourselves, then why did it fall apart? Like, because when we think about it, if you go and look up why did GM kill like what happened to the EV1, GM themselves, they killed it. Their CEO killed the EV1. And had they actually stuck to that vision and that purpose, then ultimately, just think about it. If they stuck to that plan and purpose, do you think that Tesla would exist today? Would there be a Tesla company? Because if we really think about it, then, you know, the EV1 would have ultimately sparked a whole new revolution based upon what GM did. And literally, they wouldn't be playing second fiddle to Tesla today. So they not only did they kill the car, but then they also took them from the folks who loved the car, and then they destroyed them. 1999, they destroyed the EV1. So we go back and ask ourselves, what was the purpose of this company? What was the purpose? You know, was their purpose ultimately to say, okay, hey, well, you know, we just want to show people that it's possible that it exists. Well, then at that point, it's like, you know, when we look at what happened after that, I mean, the history's kind of there. You know, almost went into bankruptcy because of the fact that bad investment after bad investment after bad investment. Then ultimately, you know, pretty much GM was on the verge of bankruptcy, and also thanks to the financial crisis and a few other things. And then ultimately they let their CEO go, who literally, you know, scrapped a brilliant project that would have ultimately put GM on the map and ultimately like had it as one of the greatest innovators of our time. And it's very interesting how time kind of like comes back, because it's like that same former CEO at GM now works at another that happens to just work at an electric company that supports electric cars. You know, you may want to check out ChargePoint. He doesn't work there, but he sits on the board. Go figure. So, I mean, when we think about it in perspective, like I said, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. So let's come back to that, shall we? So let's kind of like send it towards a wrap up. Clarity of why, your purpose, cause, or belief. And it's kind of interesting because when you think about when you have your trading plans, this is the first thing that you must always answer. Remember that whole thing when we did the video on trading plans and we asked, what is your motivation? Your motivation is your why. Because honestly, if you don't get behind what you believe in, or if you can't get behind what you believe in, then you won't be able to be successful in the process. You'll never get behind what you're doing. So you have to have a purpose, a cause, or a belief that ultimately is that strong enough that literally not only motivates you, but also is like your fuel consistently to go ahead and execute the how, which is the discipline, your strengths, values, and guiding principles, which therein leads to the final thing, the consistency of what? So think about it: clarity, discipline, and consistency. Why, how, what? You know, when we think about the what, again, the products sold, services offered, or your role at work, or your just role as an investor. It's like, that's what you do. It's what you offer. It's what you sell. You know, it's easy for us to always look at, say, for example, the narrative of trying to decode financials. Financials also tell us a beautiful story when we look at it from the investment side. But that's not all. You know, just like, for example, I like to believe that as investors, you know, when you think about it, many of you, your purpose for what is it that you're doing is because of your family. You know, many of you have children, many of you have spouses, many of you also have loved ones. You're doing it for them. And when you're investing for them, it's like, I tend to find that when you found your purpose and your why, it helps you as it pertains to being able to having the strong discipline. So that way you don't make dumb decisions. You don't make dumb decisions. You don't try to go outside of the scope of things. You stick to the script. And then ultimately, when you stick to the script, because of the purpose is so strong, it's like you just execute. You know your role, and essentially you just execute. It's just that simple. But I tend to find that when people don't know what their purpose is, or what the cause is, or why is that they believe in what they're doing, then you'll never get behind it. So then ultimately it's like it typically leads to unsuccessful. Like, think about it. If the Come Up series didn't really have a strong belief, cause, or purpose, then we would be unsuccessful. It doesn't always show out. It doesn't always show up in the beginning. It can show up over time. Mm-hmm. Like, time is one of the greatest things. Like, for example, when we look at the diffusion of innovation, notice everything that changed on the vertical side, whether it was sales, expectations, whatever it was. The one thing that never changed, though, was time. It never changed. It was always something over a period of time. When we look at something hitting its peak, when we look at how ARK Invest does its strategies, it was over time. So when we think about it in perspective, with a huge perspective, it must always start with the why, which I come back to and asking, why are you an investor? I yield my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Well, that was very, well, it was powerful, and it was also timely, given that we are at the beginning of the year and we are embarking on a whole
You sound far away, by the way.
Oh, do I? Hold on. Yeah. Let me turn the mic up. And I was saying that this is the beginning of the year, and we are, embarking on all new, everything is fresh. This is like a blank slate. We have people that are just now starting to invest. We have people that, got their feet wet a little bit last year. And we also have people that have just been investing and maybe they never invested in options. And for those that are new to this, establishing that why is so critical. And it also reminds me of a time when, just like I remember just growing up, and when you're young, when you're not necessarily thinking about your why, you're kicking it, basically. I mean, at least I was. And I found that when I didn't necessarily have the belief in myself, because maybe I didn't know what I wanted to do or whatever, I had positive adults in my life, or just other people that kind of stood in that space and held that space until my belief can catch up with how big they saw me. And I'm sharing that now because as I look at all the cousins that are like embarking upon this, and they may feel like, oh my gosh, you know, where do I start? Or how do I do this? Or I see everyone else doing all this. I'm just letting you know that my capacity, my personal capacity for how I see us as a people and a culture is so big that I can stand in that space for those cousins who are still trying to figure out what their belief is. And so I invite you, talking to the cousins, to just adopt the belief that we have in you. Because we've already seen where this road leads. And you know, like we always say, no cousin left behind, and we're coming back. And if it just takes you just stepping out on faith, knowing that there are others that believe in you and believe in your ability to generate wealth and raise yourself out of whatever circumstance or condition you may find yourself in currently, then do that. I invite you to take on this belief in yourself and really in your ability to understand this. This is not hard. It just takes some time to sit down and get it. Many of you have already went back to the first episodes and have indicated like, oh my gosh, now I remember when I didn't understand this, when this all sounded like a foreign language, and now I'm like picking things up. Like that's what it's going to take. So you may have your belief in the beginning, no matter the size of the belief, and it will continue to grow as you continue to see the evidence around you of your belief. And that evidence, you know, may look like your portfolio going green, or you keeping your word to yourself that you're going to study for X amount of hours. And let's say it's 20 hours a week or whatever, and you actually do that. And every time you keep your word that's attached to your belief, you increase your personal power. And as your personal power increases, then your ability to vision, your ability to manifest, your ability to magnetize resources to you and all those things just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you and your word are one. So if you say that you are going to close the racial wealth gap, and you say that and you believe it, and you walk it out and you do the actions to make that a reality, other people will start to believe you. And then they'll say, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And then they start to do it. And then all of a sudden, it's not just you and this belief. There's so many people that are enrolled in your vision and buying into your belief. And that is what this movement is about. But when your belief is just a little shaky, just know that Mark and I are here to stand in that place. We already decided a long time ago that we're taking a stand for you, a stand for those after you, for your children, your great grandchildren, and all that. Long after we're gone, this belief that we have in our people and in this mission will still be here. That's how strong it is. That's how big the capacity is. That's how this is outside of me. This is outside of Mark. This is outside of the Come Up series. This is outside of you. So when you are sitting down and you are really thinking about like, can I do this? I'm telling you, yes, you can. If you're thinking like, man, I don't know if I even can afford to do this, I'm telling you, yes, you can. And I'm telling you that you must invest. This is not about you. This is bigger than you, to the point where we can single-handedly close the racial wealth gap in one generation. One. Think about how big that is. Hold on to that vision. So if you are getting into some risky trades, pause and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I want you to remember this episode, remember this time, remember all of your cousins, the OG cousins included, that are rooting for you. All these mentors, like, we're not just doing this because this is cute. Do you know how much work this takes? Like, we're not just doing this for fun. It is fun. Don't get me wrong, it is fun, but we're not doing this for fun. We're not even doing this for money. There's so many other things we could be doing. And it means the world to me that you all are actually making money just by believing in yourself. That notion alone just blows my mind. The more you believe in yourself, the more your portfolio will reflect that. Because when you believe in yourself as an investor, you start researching more, you start understanding the catalyst. You don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to ask Mark, have to ask me, oh, should I do this or should I do this? What strike is this? What is that? Should I get out of this? You will already know as your belief in yourself gets bigger and bigger and bigger. There'll be a point in time where it won't even matter if we believe in you or not, because you believe in yourself so much. Your family believes in yourself and in you so much. I've received messages from spouses saying that, oh my gosh, now my spouse is aligned with the vision. Now my spouse sees what I see in myself. That is freaking beautiful. The power of belief is out of this world. It transcends this moment right here. It transcends any doubt that you have in yourself. So I don't want to hear any more things about, what should I do? Should I do this? This is 2021. Okay. There is money to be made. Okay. Like, man, what are you waiting for? And for those of you, kudos to those of you that have already started, that are bringing on people. I just got a text from my baby sister talking about Jolene. Well, she calls me Juju. She was like, Juju, can we set up my E-Trade account? My brother already set his up. My little sister is about to set her up. Because I told him, I said, look, siblings, I can't be the only one out here balling. I can't. I don't even want to do it by myself. Mark talks about all the time, like it's lonely at the top, and I always tell him, I'm just down the street, I'm just down the street. So y'all are down the street. We are down the street. And that's just that on that.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes. Let me say this last thing.
What?
We come back and reflect in December about how far we come. That is going to be, that is going to be lit. That is going to be lit. I cannot wait. Go ahead, Mark.
And for those in whom which that are kind of like just sitting there, I remember when I was first mentoring Che.
Oh, the vision?
Yes, AKA the vision. Yes. And it was super dope because it was super duper duper dope. Because I remember showing him a video, and I was showing him introducing him to to the world of investing, and it was like showing him Amazon, so that way he can get to understand Amazon, the company. Mm-hmm. And one of the guys was literally interviewing Jeff Bezos while Jeff Bezos was driving in this old Honda, and he's like, "You're a billionaire driving in this this rundown Honda." And he was like, why is that? And Jeff Bezos doesn't respond at first. And then so he was like, and so then he asked him again, and Jeff Bezos is like, because my car still works. It's a great car. But he mentioned something that kind of stuck with Che. And that I want to share with each and every single one of you. It's called regret minimization framework. And so the thing is that I'll pull it up on the screen. Okay. Regret minimization framework, pretty much in a nutshell, means that in X amount of years or in X amount of months or years, will I regret not doing this? If yes, then do it. If no, then don't bother. Just that simple. So, for example, in 1 year, will I regret not taking the time to execute and make the investment or make the trade, the long-term trade, most likely, the smart trade? Will I make that trade? If you say yes, you will regret that, then you know what you must do. If no, it's simple. Don't bother. It's just that simple. Regret minimization framework. It's it's in the sense of, hey, I can execute what I can do today, but will I regret it and not doing it? Jeff Bezos talked about this when it came to him and creating Amazon. He said, in X amount of years, will I regret not creating Amazon? And it kept him up at night. And apparently the answer was yes. So he did it. Look at Amazon today. It's just this simple. It's just this simple piece in which that we look at and say, honestly, all it takes is just for you to be able to execute. So ask yourself today, many of you, sit back and, watch our content, and we hope you enjoy it. I mean, because our mission was also to make, the world of finance and financial literacy and investing cool. And hopefully we succeeded in that journey early on, and that we're continuously hitting that mark. And there's a whole bunch of other performance indicators that we kind of look at ourselves and judge ourselves on, but more so in the sense of, we looked at it in the sense that if we never created the come up, and if in X amount of years, will we regret not creating the come up series? Well, what would that look like? Well, what would financial literacy look like for our culture? How many folks would be sitting back and, sending us all these wonderful messages about what their portfolios look like now? People understanding that there's a world beyond exactly, what's been always in front of you. Would we have regretted all that? Yeah. One of my biggest regrets, Jolene, is that, honestly, I didn't do this sooner.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's been one of my biggest regrets, because of the fact that I look at it like this. Had I started earlier, what would the culture look like today? For example, me teaching like this golden circle thing, or just like kind of like reiterating the lesson from Simon to our culture, in the sense, like, look at it like this. When we think about leaders, right? Many times we follow leaders because of a vision, because of what they believe in, and it rings so true, and ultimately we get behind it. I'm going to speak on this issue today, and I'm probably sure that Jolene may have a few words, but I'm going to keep mine very brief. What you saw yesterday on television is exactly what it looks like when a person's why has no purpose or really no strong belief behind it. When it has no conviction, when it really has no sense of like true value. I mean, because remember what we always say, your purpose isn't about you. Like, that's the cool part. Your purpose is never about you. And so it's kind of cool, but when we look at it from this standpoint, from these eyes, instead of us being there at that Capitol building, we got to see somebody else who didn't look like us at this Capitol building, that followed somebody else's leadership or their why, and look at what has happened. When your why is not strong enough, look at all the folks in whom which that look to abandon ship.
I'm not going to comment too much on what happened yesterday. But I will say, Mark, that honestly, I believe that everything lined up the way it was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about yesterday. I'm talking about just 2020 in general.
Yeah.
And there may have been, that regret, like, wish we would have started sooner. And I feel that. I do feel that. I feel where you're coming from with that. And at the same time, I really do think that everything aligned quite divinely.
Yep.
For this to take place. And all I can do is thank goodness that we did start.
Yeah.
We did. And y'all came along.
Well,
Mm-mm-mm.
Do you have any final words, Jolene?
Yo, I just want to say, I hope y'all are in this market.
Me too.
In this market. And or if you're not yet, by the end of quarter one, you will be in this market.
And more focused. You know, it's not about having positions in everything. It's about honestly focusing your attention and focusing your portfolios and making sure that they're disciplined. You know, I always tell people, like, would you rather be the jack of all trades or the king or the queen of a craft? You know, that's honestly where it comes into. When you have a certain type of focus, you know, the world tends to open up and it becomes a lot more clear. It becomes a lot more easier for you to be able to maneuver without you always having to look over your shoulder. And on top of that, it's just like less stress. No, very much so less stress. Just, you know, you could be like, you know, the lady of leisure over here, where it's like, you know, she goes to undisclosed locations for vacation. Or you could be like me and just, you know, wake up in the mirror and, you know, or wake up and, you know, look in the mirror and consult yourself as it pertains to what is it that you want to do for the day. You know, it's just that easy. And I believe that each and every single person will get there.
I also believe that every single person that's watching, I believe that you all deserve this.
Yes. Took the words right out of my mouth. Right out of my mouth. I guess there's no other way to end it after that. It's just more so in the sense of, like we said, in 2021, my focus is a simple motto: be legendary. Like, this year is the start of, like, you know, hey, whatever I do, it must meet a certain requirement, which is legendary. It's going to go down not in the sense of accolades or personal, you know, achievements or, you know, notoriety. I don't know. I could give a flying about all that. What I care about when we look at it in the sense of be legendary, it's more so in the sense of a collaborative collective, in the sense of what were we doing at that time, and where we can look back in time and say that this is what was created so that X amount could be. So that's what I mean by legendary.
I like that. I can dig it. It's like, what were you doing yesterday? Out here building generational wealth, being legendary. That's what I was doing. But, you know, also as you talk about, you know, being focused, but then also making sure your portfolio reflects focus, look at each of your positions and do an audit and see if there was any FOMO involved.
Yeah.
And if there was, then take some time to get clear about that position. You know, do you need to cut it? Do you need to reposition? And then earlier when I said, you know, if you have to scroll through your portfolio, I'm really talking about options. I know there are people that have like a lot of, you know, shares in companies and all that. You know, do you? I'm really talking to those portfolios that are for options.
Yeah, the 2 scroll options.
That's not cute.
I don't even have that.
I don't have that either. So all of that scrolling, like, that's not the move. Because Mark, you brought it up in one of the meetings. You were talking about, you know, if you need to make moves fast and you got to scroll down to get to the, you know, the position, you're doing too much.
Oh, you want me to explain that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So if the world is having a bad day, or like just getting ready to go through a bad time, and if you have all these positions where you're just all over the place, then now you're in a world of hurt, because now you have to make sure that every single one of your positions are accounted for. Like, now you're all over the place, and it's just like kind of like Mississippi burning. Like, it's just like, okay, like your house is on fire. But when you have something that's more focused, it's very easy. It's very easy to execute those trades. It's very easy to essentially sleep at night because of the fact that you know what you have. I always tell people, if you can't know off of the top of your dome and to be able to state exactly what's in your portfolio within like 10 seconds or less, then maybe you got too much in your portfolio. Simple.
Simple, real simple.
And these are just trades that I'm talking about, trades. Now, if you're a long-term shareholder, you know, by all means.
Yeah, this is just for the options, really.
All right, y'all. It's been crazy. It's been really, really crazy. And I hope that each and every single one of you all enjoyed today's episode. It was a little bit more calm, cool, calm, and collected, but with a purpose. So that way it's like, you know, we can relax, you can blot out all of the noise and just focus and execute. Our third and final episode will come next week, and we hope that you enjoy it.
This, you said third and final episode of this series.
Oh, yeah, of this series, like third and final episode of, this is a 3-part series, like I said on Tuesday. So of this series, as it pertains to just like innovation, purpose, it's going to be interesting to see what it is and how it all comes together. But hopefully that each and every single one of you can definitely grab value from this. And on top of that, it's like I'm learning how to get better when it comes to presenting and putting together, like, you know, educational content. So hopefully you guys are enjoying this class. If you guys are auditing it, please let me know exactly how you feel, either by using the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and with comments. I definitely read those. And on top of that, if you also want to be in the know for when the next episode is coming, go ahead and hit that bell, because we are working on some pretty fire content this year, and I am
always
stoked. You know, I'm about to make a lot of folks out there in the industry mad, and that's okay. Because at the same token that we make those folks mad that ultimately that have been there at the top for too long, and ultimately then that means that the people that are here, I'm not going to say that you're at the bottom because I don't believe that, but each and every single one of you that are here, that ultimately that you can benefit. So stay tuned, because yeah, we're coming in hot this year. And on top of that, if you want to stay a part of it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you a part of the cousins as well. If you're an uncle or an auntie, you know, we appreciate you, you know. There it is. All right, y'all. Until next time, I'm Mark Monroe.
And I'm Jolene GC, in the place to be.
And this was your come up on Hot Take Thursday.